We'll begin tonight with election matters and from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where the European Union election follow-up mission has called for speedy electoral reforms and implementation of election reform recommendation, which followed the 2023 general polls in the country. The EU mission says it has met with stakeholders, including INEC, members of the National Assembly, political parties, among others, to deliberate on issues regarding Nigeria's electoral reform priorities. The mission urged the Nigerian authorities to ensure the reforms are effected in order to avoid repeating the mistakes of the last general elections.
2023 elections, important work has been undertaken. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2025 and the Constitutional Review are ongoing, as you know. Both incorporate many of our recommendations. However, it is clear that the clock is ticking. What we find especially important is the strong alignment we see between the recommendations of INEC, of civil society through the Citizens Memorandum, and those of the EU election observers and the EU election observation mission. Each of these three processes was conducted independently, and yet they point in the same direction. Of course, there are some differences, but the convergence is striking. All three call for greater transparency, for stronger accountability for electoral offences, for inclusive representation of women, youth and persons with disabilities, and for reform that would give INEC the clarity and independence that it needs. It shows that there is a broad and shared understanding of what needs to be done to strengthen future elections.
Similarly, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has accused the Independent National Electoral Commission of showing a lack of commitment towards improving Nigeria's electoral system. He spoke while hosting a European Union delegation led by Barry Andrews, where he urged INEC to work closely with the National Assembly to pass laws that ensure every vote count is free, fair and transparent elections. In response, INEC Chairman Mahmood Yakubu called on lawmakers to speed up amendments to the electoral laws, citing legal uncertainties as an obstacle. A policy strategist, law and governance expert Sam Amadi, as well as policy analyst Victor Okai joins me now to speak to the European Union recommendations ahead of Nigeria's 2027 elections. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Let me start with you, Victor. What specific recommendations from the EU election follow-up missions report do you believe are crucial for addressing the shortcomings observed during the 2023 election, and how can their implementation be prioritized going into 2027?
I think the issue of simultaneous transmission of electronic and manual results will go to a very long way, because the truth is that it's like what happens in agriculture, where from the farm, you know, before products leave the farm and get to the final consumer, a lot of goods are lost in the process, particularly in a place like Nigeria. It's the same thing. You know, the harvest from the electoral field, a lot of it is distorted and manipulated before it gets to the final collation center where results are announced. For me, it's not just a matter of putting a legal framework in place. What is more important is the will to execute it, you know, so that voters' confidence can be restored.
All right, Sam, the union made 23 recommendations. 8 of that were specific for INEC. I want to take priority 2, which talked about the establishment of a publicly accountable selection process for INEC members. There's been a lot of conversation about this within the country among analysts and in the media space for a while prior to this recommendation by the EU mission. Do you think perhaps this will expedite action towards that, or it's just mere words considering the closeness to the 2027 elections?
Well, I think that's a big ticket item, the appointment of INEC chairman and commissioners, and that has been since the days of Ray's report. It's been a major issue. President Jonathan didn't quite take that up when he had to do the reform. But again, this is the point. It's real political weight has to come in to make that work. It's divesting the president of what is usually associated with executive power. If you look at the constitutional law, presidents used to have the privilege and the right to appoint heads of executive agencies. But because of the sensitivity of INEC operations across the world, there are much more structured way in which the members of the commission are appointed. In South Africa, it's more like what was recommended, independent, merit-based, maybe a commission like the NJC and so on and so forth. So the question then is, these calls for removing this power from the president, can it really carry on? Can the National Assembly take it on? My fear is that they probably cannot, except there is real political consensus. The missing actor and the big elephant that can drive this is the constitution of political parties. The parties themselves, the opposition parties, come together and are strong on pushing for this as minimum condition for a fair election. That may carry some weight, and of course they have significant membership in the National Assembly to constitute a serious conversation around it. Unfortunately, none of the political parties have come out strong to push for this significant reform. So with the voice of the EU and some of the civil society groups, Abuja School has been saying this, will it carry the day? I have my doubts. So Abuja School thinks that maybe a revised version can sail through, which is a version that even keeps the power of appointment, but restricts who can be appointed. And in our own version, you exclude all those who have party membership, party office for the last 5 years, and then those who are appointed will never hold political office for the next 5 years, political office by the president or governor or even party leadership. So we have two options here. It'd be nice to take that power for the president, but the political pressure, the dynamics that can result in National Assembly boldly doing this and the president signing on to that enactment is not in play right now. Then the alternative could be to leave that power, but basically reshape, redefine in narrow sense who can be appointed so as to ensure to a large measure that those who have been partisan in membership, in appointment, in political life never gets in there. I think this is really the big ticket item. And the second one would be what my colleague said, which is immediate, simultaneous transmission from the polling unit to a portal that's open to all, so that there's no second-guessing the result from polling units.
Yeah, the EU mission did talk about that, and they also encouraged more transparency and accountability in the process during and afterwards for better transparency. But there are two recommendations that the mission proposed. I mean, it's not all bad. For instance, they said those that are attaining 18 years should get the opportunity to register. And we know that is ongoing at the moment. And then the Constitution review is also taking into consideration affirmative action for women, more prominence in politics. Are there areas perhaps you feel that in between 2023 and now some effort has been shown that might result in changes by 2027 in one of the recommendations? This is for you, Victor.
Okay, so you see, I'm a little worried, even if I were to say, okay, what gains have we made? A situation where you move one step forward and 3 steps backwards does not show any gain at all. And I'll tell you why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Recently, and Dr. Amadi has rightly alluded to one of the important areas being in the appointment of, electoral officers. Now, a situation where the appointment of the new INEC chairman is fraught with, I don't know how to put it, a bit of controversy. People are just grumbling on that. People cannot speak out loud. And they all see it as part of a manipulation process towards victory, in 2027. It doesn't all go well because voter confidence is at the heart. The biggest problem we have in this country today is voter apathy. I've talked with a lot of people, and what I hear all the time is, oh, we didn't vote for them, we didn't put them there. What's the point voting? If we vote, will our votes count? That's not healthy for any country at all. It may be good for the politicians, that's what they want. But it's not healthy for the country. Because what it simply means is that every electoral cycle is just going to be a jamboree. It will end up being like the local government elections where it's like the results have already been written. And so there's no point, there's no point going out anyway, because we all know what the results are going to be like. Now, when it gets to a point like that, then it is terrible for the country. And so in talking about what gains we may have made in that direction, frankly, I don't see any. If we move one step forward and then go back 3 steps backwards, then it's not helping any.
All right, Victor, I'm talking about less than a minute. So, Sam, quickly, your thoughts on Atiku Abubakar's accusation of INEC of a lack of commitment towards electoral reform process. Is INEC really to blame, or the structure itself that is Nigeria and its creation at the heart of it? In 40 seconds, if you can. I know it's a tight squeeze.
Yeah, sure. I think, yes, INEC has problem. But look, I'll go back to Atiku and say, INEC should actually blame the political parties. I mean, since 2023, what has really the political parties, the political leaders, Atiku Abubakar, all of them, what have they done to push the government? INEC is not the one who makes reform, actually. INEC is the one who implements. So I push back. What has the agency done? What has the Labour Party done? What has the PDP done in concrete, consistent, insistent way to make sure that the Wales report, the report of the civil society, EU, gets implemented? These are parties, these guys are only thinking about being candidates to election. They're not thinking about creating that structural enablement for free and fair election. So I blame the politicians more than I blame them. Yes, INEC, look, and by the way, final one, the electoral system was going to be great in 2023. INEC switched off the server, and INEC, the IRF, and INEC ruined everything. Nigeria has reformed largely. 2023 Electoral Act was good enough to give us good outcome. INEC was partisan and fair. So I blame the politicians, I blame the parties, I blame everybody.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate your time and the insights you've provided.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a new phase in the Federal Capital Territory as the Minister flags off another road construction. This and more after now. You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. European Union mission calls for reforms ahead of Nigeria's 2027 elections as Atiku Abubakar accuses INEC of lack of commitment. Court dismisses suit seeking refund of monies expended in Rivers State by Ibokete Ibas during the 6-month emergency period. Chad Parliament approves presidential term extension from 5 to 7 years, renewable without limits. Thanks for staying with us. Let's tell you now that the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has flagged off the construction of Transitway N2 to connect the central area with the Wuse district of Abuja. The minister says that the project, once completed, will enhance transportation infrastructure within the area and stimulate economic growth within the capital city.
The flag off and commissioning will continue till almost the 20th of October. And then from November we'll start to commission some other projects which we think are very vital, which we think are very important to grow the economy of the FCT and improve the landscape of the FCT. I told you when you are doing your work, people may hate you, they may not have the job. All those who hate us are using the roads. All those who hate us will use the water. All those who hate us, they will use the street lights. It's an opportunity to provide for them, so you don't need to worry yourselves.
Your Excellency, the transitway in the Abuja Master Plan is a public transport system infrastructure which combines the rail mode and bus rapid transport network, designed to link the city center with sector centers along the development corridors as well as to the satellite towns, and thus reduce reliance on private cars.
To Rivers State, where the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed a suit seeking the refund of all the state funds released, appropriated and expended by the administration of the sole administrator in the state. Justice James Omotosha, the presiding judge, on Thursday ruled that the court does not have the jurisdiction to entertain the case. The presiding judge said the applicant's counsel should have made his research before filing the suit, which is void ab initio. The judge also declined the request to transfer the case to the Port Harcourt Judicial Division. Earlier on Thursday, the court ruled that it does not have the jurisdiction to entertain a suit filed by another party against the declaration of the emergency rule in Rivers State. For this conversation, let's now turn to a lawyer and legal analyst, Liberaso Shoma. It's good to have you on the news tonight. There have been many legal challenges to the emergency rule in Rivers State, and none of them have withstood judicial scrutiny. In fact, in one case, the court said, in both cases, the court said there is no jurisdiction, but it did say that only the Supreme Court has exclusive original jurisdiction. My question are in two parts. The first is, what do you make of this judgment? And the second part is, who then should be going to the court if the parties that have presented the case to the court do not have the right to do so?
Yeah, thank you, Felicity. I think it is matters like these that courts should be sanctioning lawyers for bringing frivolous cases to courts. And like the judge did advise the lawyer, they should have done their research properly before approaching the court. In law, there's what we call the locus standi. There's what we call cause of action and a right of action. The fact that the cause of action arose does not mean that everybody has a right of action, to bring the matter to courts. So in this case, for example, everybody, even elementary law students, knows that when it has to do with proclamation and interpretation of the constitutional proclamation, it is the Supreme Court that has original jurisdiction. And apart from that also, if you take it a stretch further, similar cases have come before the court where in Plateau State, the former Attorney General, when the emergency rule was declared by Obasanjo in Plateau State, and then the suspended Attorney General approached the court asking that the court declare, such move null and void. And the court said, well, since you have been suspended as an Attorney General, you have no locus to bring a matter before the court as an Attorney General. So if the lawyer had done his research, well enough, he probably would have discovered that just a simple Google would show you that, this was the decision of the court. And so that an ordinary person or an NGO, that does not have, the right of action to bring such a matter. And then even if you are bringing such a matter, certainly it is not for the Federal High Court. Because let's even go a little bit further. If you're asking the Federal High Court to ask the administrator to refund all monies expended, monies that were duly budgeted for by virtue of Section 11, subsection 4 of the Constitution, indirectly what you are doing, if the court makes a pronouncement on that, what the court is indirectly doing will be pronouncing on Section 305 of the Constitution. And it is the Supreme Court that has the powers to make such pronouncement. And that's why the court, by suo motu on its own, without an application, decided to say, you know what, this is a trash. This is a mere piece of paper and should be confined to the dustbin. Even appeal by the lawyer to transfer the matter, the court said there was nothing. You can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It will fall like a pack of cards, like according to Lord Denny in USA and McFall. And that we say in, elementary law. And so that's why the court, flung that case out
so
of the window.
The second part,
it is making news because it has to do with the emergency rule. Ordinarily, that case shouldn't even be sent in the courtroom at all.
Yeah, there's a part of the ruling that I wanted your thoughts as well. Who has the right to pursue such a case? Or let me rephrase it and say... I get it. I get your question.
Okay. The thing is, why those cases have not crossed judicial threshold is because the wrong people have been the one approaching the court. The right people, the governors elected on the platform of PDP, have such powers, and they have taken the matter to the appropriate court, which is the Supreme Court. And that is why on this same platform, I had said the last time that the Supreme Court should not treat that case as an academic exercise, because it will go a long way in determining whether a president has power under Section 305, considering subsection 4 of Section 305, whether a president has a power to suspend democratically elected institution when a state of emergency is declared. That is the question that the Supreme Court needs to determine. And once the Supreme Court determines that, then certainly it will give a pointer on which way to go. And like I said the last time, you saw what happened in Obasanjo's time and what happened in Goodluck Jonathan's time, and then now. So there is no addendum on the proper procedure to apply. And we say the law is what the court says it is. It is the Supreme Court that has the power to determine that. And the proper parties are before the Supreme Court, which is, in this case, the governors elected on the platform of the PDP, because such declaration directly affects them, and then the federal government.
Thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
The Nigeria Center for Disease Control says that the fatality rate from Lassa fever has risen in the country to 168 deaths recorded between January 1 and September 21, 2025. The case fatality rates now stands at 18.5%, higher than the 16.9% recorded during the same period in 2024. According to a Lassa fever situation report released by the NCDC on Friday, for its epidemiological week 38, the country has reported 7,792 suspected cases, with 906 cases confirmed across 21 states and 106 local government areas. Data shows that 90% of confirmed cases came from 5 states of Ondo, Bauchi, Edo, Taraba, and Ebonyi. Still ahead tonight, President Trump set Sunday night deadline for Hamas to accept plan to end war in Gaza. We have this story and more when we return. President Bola Tinubu has approved a 100-kilometer stretch of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway to pass through Edo State after the state was initially excluded. This information was disclosed during the recent inspection visit of the Minister of Works, David Umahi, to Edo State. News Centre's Neze Bazwaye has details.
The high point of the joint inspection tour of federal roads in Edo State by the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, and Governor Monday Okpebholo came in an announcement at a dinner held in the Government House in Edo State. Having been originally excluded from the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway alignment, Edo will now host a 100-kilometer segment of the project. Works Minister Umahi said President Tinubu made the change personally to reward Edo's commitment to infrastructure.
The President has given you 100 kilometers by 2 of the coastal roads. President is a rewarder. Is a rewarder of those that have love for their people. Your governor is a gift to Mr. President. It's a gift to him. Your governor is a miracle to the administration of APC. And go and mark my words. This man is going to lift Edo State to what the founding fathers of Edo State desired.
Governor Monday Okpebholo, who has repeatedly drawn attention to the poor state of Edo roads, thanked the federal government for finally stepping in and giving attention to Edo State.
A few days ago, I have to come to this as just as I returned back. What I saw almost made me wept. I wept for the number of vehicles that were on this road, trailers that fell, and I felt it shouldn't be so. The president is trying. Whoever is criticizing the president does not know what he's doing. But also criticism is good because it's a wake-up call to all of us. So I don't think it actually bothers the president because the president knows what is going on every day and the amount of job that is being done every day.
Officials earlier explained that previous contractors under the NNPC tax credit scheme achieved less than 4 kilometers before their contracts were revoked. The state has since re-awarded a 23-kilometer stretch to a new firm, CBC, while the federal government focuses on stronger, elevated carriageways to withstand heavy traffic. The dual developments, rehabilitation of crumbling roads, and inclusion in a landmark coastal project offer hope to commuters who have been long affected by Edo's infrastructure crisis. In Edo, for News Central, Ameze Bazwai.
In commemoration of Nigeria's 65th Independence Day celebration, Pivot Nigeria has emphasized the importance of changing the Nigerian narrative. This was the focus at a conference with key stakeholders where citizens were urged to remain #1 ambassadors of the country. News Central's Homolola Ololade tells us more.
Nigeria's story is often told by the international media through a detached lens, but in recent years, the country's local media has risen to the challenge of changing the narrative. However, many believe more needs to be done in this regard. In pushing for this, the Pivot Nigeria conference themed Reframing the Lens created a platform for conversations centered around changing the narrative by bringing together creatives, media professionals and students with the aim of telling positive Nigerian stories while challenging the stereotypes.
We are Nigerians. We see people really doing their best work. We see the industry. We see the women in the market. We see the women every day building enterprises that are sustaining families, building legacies. Who is telling that story? We need to tell that story because nobody else even wants to tell it.
When Nigeria happens to you, you become somebody that is sought after. We are in NASA, we are in, you name it. We are in parliaments in other countries. Whether you like it or not, Nigeria does happen.
The power of storytelling, particularly by Nigeria's media and film industry, cannot be undermined. Hence the need for the government to recognize this while giving it the maximum support needed to thrive.
When you look at certain news platforms like News Central, there's a certain deliberateness in his editorial direction. Is that Nigerian government needs to embrace Nollywood and agree on the themes and the messages that they can, in some way covertly engage the industry to tell parts of that Nigerian story.
The Nigerian media must understand the power it wields by being responsible through providing balanced reportage of events and stories, especially to the international audience.
If you're going to report the problems, you should also report, the possibility. We're not saying you should paint Nigeria too colorful, but please paint Nigeria with through the lens of the whole picture. Let people see who we are, let people see our problems, and still recognize the opportunities and the possibilities that that can come to us.
So it's really important, first of all, to balance bad news with the good things happening and to share the good things that are happening so that more people can be aware that indeed these things are happening, good things are happening.
Beyond the media playing a huge role in changing the narrative, cultural ambassadors highlight the role of tourism in positively telling Nigeria's story.
If we do not develop our tourism infrastructure, there's no way we can get it right. 2, we have to be intentional about any tourism products we put out there. Because tourism does not happen by accident. You plan it. That's the way everybody or every country wants to be seen. There are things they want to sell. We need to be definite and then create advertising communication around it, marketing communication around those products, and the world will buy into it.
The power of changing Nigeria's narrative lies in the participation of all citizens, including media, government and communities, to challenge old beliefs while amplifying inclusive voices. In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Odolade.
As Africa pushes to unlock its vast energy potential, one of the biggest hurdles remains finance. Where to find it, how to structure it, and how to make projects truly bankable, from innovative financing models to the balance between oil, gas, and renewables. News Central spoke to Ejike Iwagu, Group CEO of Moneda Capital, on the sidelines of the African Energy Week in Cape Town, South Africa.
I mean, we could always do with more, but Africa has never had a capital problem. It's really about, utilization and also, like you said, innovation. What we've tried to do at Moneda is to work with, private investors, mobilizing their capital with ours, as well as institutional capital. So you would find that in Nigeria, for instance, we're sitting on, over 25 trillion naira. The collaboration needs to be accelerated heavily. We need to see not just talk, but we need to see action in that collaboration. We're driving the conversation towards not just approving investments in pipeline projects and refineries and clapping for ourselves. We're asking a critical question. In this $50 billion investment for a new pipeline, what percentage of that was locally driven? Because if you can achieve 50% local participation in a $50 billion contract, you have $25 billion, in country, in region. That is transformational in any economy, right? And that's how we've got to be thinking about. Now, to achieve that, the DFIs cannot do it. The Afrexim banks cannot do it. They cannot drive that $25 billion all the way down to the streets. They can make it available to the banks, but we've also found that the banks also can't drive it down to the streets because the banks require over-collateralization, processes, KYC, extensive paperwork. And the average SME is not at that level in Africa yet. There must be a vehicle that can safely deploy that $25 billion into the streets where they are needed the most. And that's where the collaboration with, platforms like Moneda is critical.
Thank you for staying with us. Outside Nigeria now, South Sudan's opposition leader, Riek Machar, has told the court trying him for crimes against humanity that his position as vice president made him immune from prosecution. Machar was suspended from his position last month after being charged with treason and accused of ordering an ethnic militia's attack on an army base in March, which he denied. His supporters say the trial is part of efforts by President Kiir to sideline him and consolidate power. And one of our top stories tonight, Chadian lawmakers have approved a 7-year renewable term, a major constitutional change that could see President Idris Deby remain in power indefinitely. On Friday, Chad's parliament adopted the constitutional revision, extending presidential terms from 5 to 7 years and crucially removing term limits altogether. The amendment passed overwhelmingly with 236 votes in favor and none against out of 257 members from both parliamentary chambers. Under the revised constitution, presidential terms will now last 7 years with no cap on re-elections. However, the new rules will apply only from the next presidential election. Friday's vote was held earlier than originally scheduled, having been brought forward from October the 13th. And to the U.S., President Donald Trump has given Hamas until Sunday to accept his 20-point plan for peace in Gaza, warning the Palestinian militant group faced all hell if it did not agree to the terms. The U.S. leaders set the deadline which would fall at 1 a.m. Monday in Gaza after an official for the Islamist movement on Friday said that the group still needed time to study the proposal to end nearly 2 years of devastating war in the Palestinian territory. The proposal, backed by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calls for a ceasefire, the release of hostages within 72 hours, Hamas disarmament, and a gradual Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. In a related development, hundreds of thousands of Italians took to the streets on Friday in mass protests and strikes over the treatment of the global Smog flotilla and Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's cautious approach to the Gaza conflict. In many cities, tensions flared with clashes between protesters and police. At Pisa Airport, demonstrators blocked the runway, forcing a shutdown for several hours. Meanwhile, 4 Italian MPs who participated in the flotilla have returned home following the interception of the group's final boat, marking the end of their mission. Tonight returns with business, sports, and entertainment news. So stay with us.
Talking business now, Nigeria has become the primary supplier of crude to Senegal's 30,000 barrels per day Dakar refinery because it cannot process the country's own Sangoma oil. Those outputs are heavier and with high sulfur content. Instead, the plant relies on Nigeria's much lighter era crude, with imports averaging 30,000 barrels per day in recent months, according to reports from Kepler. Meanwhile, nearly all of Senegal's 100,000 barrels per day Sangoma production is exported to Europe. The country remains dependent on Nigeria for refinery feedstock and Russia for refined fuel imports, which make up 50 to 60% of local consumption demand. We also tell you that President Bola Tinubu is expected to commission the $400 million Otakiko onshore crude oil export terminal in Rivers State next week, Wednesday. And this will mark Nigeria's first new crude export facility since 1971. The only indigenous terminal will ease evacuation bottlenecks that have hindered Nigeria's oil output. It will have a storage capacity of about 750,000 barrels, which can be expandable to 3 million, and a loading capacity of 360,000 barrels per day. It will provide a lifeline for over 40 stranded oil fields. Industry leaders hail the project as a game-changing national infrastructure expected to cut costs, boost production, and restore investor confidence. And straight to the equities markets, the NGX advanced further as the all-share index gained 0.42% to close at 143,584.04 points, while market capitalization rose to about 91.14 trillion naira, with a percentage differentials in the greens of 0.42%. Talking about sectoral performance, we look at the banking industry that actually added 0.65% with renewed interest in stocks like Zenith Bank and Access Holdings. Insurance surged 1.39%, driven by momentum in consolidated Hallmark and ICO. Oil and gas led the rally with an impressive 2.34%, of course, buoyed by Supply Energy and Total Energies. Consumer goods rose 0.55%, while industrial goods also edged up 0.19% as Lafarge Africa and Dangote Cement posted mild advances. Well, we see that the market showed some broad-based strength across board, with energy and insurance names set to be driving the sentiment right there. That's it on business. I am Lekon Onobanjo. We'll bring you sports news in a bit.
Hello and welcome to sports. The city of Lagos is set to host the UIM E1 World Championships this weekend, the first ever race on the African continent. The E1 Lagos GP is the penultimate race of the 2025 season, with Team Brady leading the standings with 135 points, just one ahead of Team Rafa, with Aoki Racing on 125 and Team Blue Rising on 114, leaving the title race wide open ahead of the finale in Miami. The E1 Lagos Grand Prix will showcase an all-electric race-built powerboats on the 5 Kauri Creek, which separates the affluent neighborhoods of Ikoyi and Victoria Island in Lagos. Football legend Didier Drogba, who's a co-owner of Team Drogba Global Africa, is already in the city, and thousands of fans are expected to watch the high-speed racing spectacle. Motorists in the city of Lagos are advised to remain patient as diversions will form part of the traffic management plan for the event. The Lagos State government has assured that adequate parking will be available at designated locations, while traffic management officials will be deployed to ensure smooth traffic flow throughout the 2-day event on Saturday and Sunday.
It's not any male race. It's not. No. This is a different one. You can have a female race competing with a male, and we ensure that every team have the same male number and the same female numbers. And beyond that, it has everything that can ensure that it's a sustainable program, it's inclusive, it ensures, that we can build, so as a very strong model.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria Premier Football League heads into matchday 7 this weekend with table toppers Nasarawa United and Enyimba looking to maintain their place on top of the table. The standard clash pits second place Enyimba against third place Rivers United in Aba. Niger Tornadoes, Kwara United and Abia Warriors will all be pushing for top 5 positions, while struggling Kano Pillars and Kun Khalifat will be seeking crucial points to escape the bottom. Other fixtures will include Bayelsa United versus Ikorodu City, Academy Warriors versus Kano Pillars, Rangers versus Katsina United, Shooting Stars versus Plateau United, and Remo Stars versus Wiki Taurus. All of them coming up this Saturday and Sunday. Still talking football in Nigeria, it's very safe to say that the Super Eagles head coach Eric Shell has drafted team captain William Troost Ekong, goalkeeper Sterling Wabali, defenders Bright Osai Samuel and Calvin Bassi, and midfielders Alex Iwobi and Wilfred Ndidi, and forwards Victor Osimhen and Simon Moses in his list of 23 players for this month's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying matches against Lesotho and Benin Republic. Defender Semi Ajayi, who missed the last 2 matches in September due to injury, returns to the group, as well as France-based striker Terry Murphy and former junior international Olakunle Olusegun, who plies his club football in Russia. Nigeria now in third place and only 3 points off first place Benin Republic, and second place South Africa will tackle Lesotho at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane, South Africa on Friday, 10th of October in a matchday 9 encounter before flying from South Africa to Uyo to battle leaders Benin Republic in a winner-takes-all final matchday on Tuesday, the 14th of October. And that's all we have on sports news tonight. News continues.
Kate is here with the entertainment news tonight. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Felicity.
Looking gorgeous as always.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. All right, in the latest twist of the Cardi B versus Nicki Minaj, they have publicly apologized to Cardi's daughter, that's Nicki, by the way, Culture, after sparking outrage for referring to the child as a roach and monkey earlier in the exchange. Now, she added a line that is already under fire. One day, your mother, aunt, and many more will be brought to their knees for what they've said and tried to do to my beautiful young prophet boy. Take care, my darling. This is not who I am. Now, Cardi B, of course, did not accept the Holy Branch quietly. She fired back on social media, rejecting what she called a backhanded apology and demanded Nicki keep her child's name out of their battle, stressing that this going back and forth about kids is really draining her energy. And now this apology chapter raises big questions from netizens and fans alike. That was it sincere or it was some sort of strategic damage control?
To be fair, I don't know what the issues are. I've not followed this story, but what is our problem? We want an apology, it's given, and then you're questioning whether it's real or not. Well, I mean, let's see what happens with
Fingers crossed with all of that, really. Now, big win alert, Wizkid and Benson's hit single, Mood, has officially been certified gold in New Zealand. That means the track has crossed the threshold for gold status in terms of combined sales and streams, which is a major milestone down under for both artists. Now, this also pushes Wizkid's tally to 6 certifications in New Zealand, while Benson seals is second, of course. Now, Mood first appeared on the deluxe edition of Wizkid's Made in Lagos and has gone on to become a fan favorite globally. Now, its gold status in New Zealand underscores how Afrobeat is no longer just dominating Africa and the US. It is making serious moves in markets everywhere. And that does it on Entertainment News Tonight. My name is Kate Adeu.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. European Union mission calls for reforms ahead of Nigeria's 2027 elections as Atiku Abubakar accuses INEC of lack of commitment. Court dismisses suit seeking refund of monies expended in Rivers State by Ibokete Bass during the 6-month emergency period. We also brought you news that Chadian Parliament has approved presidential term extension from 5 to 7 years, renewable without limits. As always, we'd love your feedback. Please share them using the phone number showing now on your screen. We'll appreciate a follow updates, of course, on our social media platforms at News Central TV. You can choose to watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Thank you very much for staying with us.